well. But without further ado, Teddy Covers. Welcome on in, buddy. How you feeling?
Man, great to be here, Drew. I'm feeling pretty good, man. We had a big weekend for the clients. I have no complaints when we do what we're supposed to do over Thanksgiving. We won on Saturday. We won on Sunday. We're on a, 71% all sports run over the last week. The NFL's been good since September. I'm 62% in the NFL. So no complaints for this past weekend. But you know how it is on Monday morning, Drew. All that's rear view mirror now. What are we going to do moving forward? And, of course, this week is the last week in the NFL with byes. Baltimore, Denver, Houston, Indy, New England, Washington. 6 teams on bye. After this week, every team will have played 13 games. And the last 4 weeks of the regular season, weeks 15, 16, 17, and 18, no byes after this. So the last 6 teams go on bye this week. Before we get into it, I do want to talk about one promo. This is not live today. This goes live tomorrow on Tuesday. That being said, it's a site-wide promotion. It's a really good deal. All access the rest of December, $199. Normally $299. So it's $100 off, and that'll get you every play every day in every sport. We also have a great Cyber Monday deal going today, Drew. The Cyber Monday at wagertalk.com. And, of course, to take advantage of 25% off any regular price product at Wager Talk or Sports Memo for that matter. Just use promo code CYBER25 to take advantage of that offer. Again, CYBER25 gets you 25% off any regular price package at Wager Talk or Sports Memo.
Teddy Covers killing it in the NFL, guys. We got OLR coming up, but first, quick look here. Monday Night Football, Teddy. We get the Browns and the Broncos. Broncos -6, -6.5 as the home favorite, 42 being the total. Quick look here. Monday Night Football. Anything you want to throw out?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen pretty steady Denver money. There was some concerns about Bo Nix's health. He's got a bad back. He appears to be fine. So we've seen a fair bit of Broncos money come in. But there's still 6s out there. It's not like this line was 2. For as much Denver money and support as we've seen, the markets haven't gone nuts on the Broncos. I gave out a free play on the bet on it last week in support of Denver minus the points. That's the only way we can look in this game. We've seen over money as well, 42 now the prevailing total. This was as low as 40 at the open. That is a line move I disagree with on today's Wager Talk today. I made a case for the under in tonight's game, talking about Denver's strong red zone defense and Jim Schwartz's strong track record against rookie QBs. So lean under, but the money's come the other way. Lean Denver. The money continues to come for the Broncos. I do not think we're going to see 7s before kickoff tonight. So likely 6.5. But if you do like the Browns, no reason to bet them now. I'd wait until closer to kickoff before I got involved. On the Cleveland side, you could see a 7 pop up.
Getting the opening line report started right now, Thursday night, December 5th, 101, 102. We're going down in rotation order here, guys. Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Lions -3.5 at most shops, Teddy. 51 in the hook being the total. Packers, Lions, division battle in the Motor City to start us off, opening line report style.
Sure, and if you're a regular viewer of Opening Line Report, you know this already. If you're a first-time viewer, first, thanks for watching. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the thumbs up. We appreciate you telling your friends about the show, all of that. But for every game, I'm going to give you 4 lines, 4 sets of lines. The first is called the look-ahead line. This is a bettable line on this game from last week. Different books post different numbers. I use the books from the Westgate Superbook. I use the numbers from the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas, which is worth noting for this game because they had an off-market number on this game at their opener. The second number I'm going to give you is my power rating number for these two teams. There's no situations involved in that. There's no factor other than Team A's number, Team B's number, home field advantage. So I'll give you the look-ahead line. I'll give you my power rating number. I'll give you where it opened last night. And I track 5 books and their opening numbers. I'll give what I call my consensus opener. And that's a mix of books that cater to recreational bettors and books that cater to the sharper bettors. And then, of course, we'll talk about where the line is this morning and what the lines have done from the opener. So 4 sets of numbers. Detroit on the look-ahead line at the Westgate was -6. Other books hung 3.5 or 4.5 on that game. The Westgate had an off-market number, which is not usual for them. They hung a 6 and a 52 on this ball game. That actually was bet down. That was the only number that really got bet down during the week because it was so far off the other market numbers. My powering number, Detroit -4. The markets opened 3.5 and 51.5 last night. By the way, the total opened 52. With a look at the total was 52 at the Westgate, 51.5 last night. And that's basically what we're looking at today, 3.5 and 51.5 for the Lions over the Packers. I mean, Green Bay was pretty impressive against Miami. Some of that may had to do with Miami's inability to handle the snow. Their own teammates were calling them soft. That being said, they were up 24-3 at halftime. Jordan Love finished the game with close to 10 yards per pass attempt. And that's a box score that lies. The second half of that game was all garbage time. Any yardage the Dolphins put up came after the game has already been decided. So it's not a game where Green Bay's box score numbers looked particularly good, but they didn't need to. Of course, the Lions are getting in rarefied air now. You know, they've won 10 in a row. That ties a franchise record since with the 1934 Detroit Lions. They have their best record after 12 games, 11-1 in team history, and certainly found a way to win on Thanksgiving Day, which they haven't been able to do, even though they didn't cover the number and played a pretty crappy second half. Detroit only 2 for 5 in the red zone in that ball game, and a big concern for the Lions. You know, a team that has been hit with some significant injuries on the defensive side of the football. They had a bunch of them yesterday. Malcolm Rodriguez, star linebacker, he got hurt. Josh Pascal was hurt. Levi Onwuzurike got hurt on the defensive line. Mekhi Wingo got hurt during the game. And these are all linebackers / defensive ends / defensive linemen. So Detroit all of a sudden has some real depth concerns with their front seven on defense. That defense has been a big factor in their success this season. So definite concerns for Detroit injury-wise, and that's certainly reflected in this number with Green Bay only 3.5. The look ahead a little bit higher.
Great start here, Teddy, as we'll flip the script, guys. Sunday, December 8th, going down in rotation order. We got 1-2-1, 1-2-2, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. Top of the card here, it's the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota squad here, the Vikings, -5. -4.5 is out there, but mostly -5s here, Teddy. 45 in the hook, Falcons at Vikings.
Look ahead line, Minnesota -3.5, total of 46. My powering number, Minnesota only -4. The markets opened, as you mentioned, it was 4.5/5 last night, a split line, total 45.5. And basically, as you mentioned, mostly 5s out there right now. So we have seen a little bit of Vikings money taking out the 4.5s. And I mean, there were good things from Atlanta yesterday in that bad home loss to the Chargers. The defense dominated the flow of that game. All right. They had 35 minutes possession. This is a defense that only had 10 sacks all year. They had 5 sacks yesterday of Herbert in that ballgame. They gave up on 2 first downs in the second half. I mean, they played excellent defensive football. Offensively is a different story. They didn't give up a touchdown. 3 field goals for the Chargers in terms of what the defense allowed. Offensively, Kirk Cousins had a really bad game. I mean, he was pretty awful. 4 interceptions. He was only sacked once. 1 of 4 in the red zone. You know, his quotes, "I've got to play better. I'm so disappointed right now. It hurts. I feel like that was the game we had a chance to win if I played at the standard I expect to." That being said, Raheem Morris after the game, "We got no issues with that man. I don't think it's going to be the issue around here. The guy's carried us. The guy's got us to this point. We're 6-6 and in first place in the division. We still got everything in front of us," which is that's what you want to hear off a game like that. But I mean, Cousins was awful. And there's no sugarcoating how bad he was in yesterday's game. And now, of course, he's facing his former team that should know his weaknesses and an elite defensive coordinator. I mean, look what Minnesota did yesterday. Minnesota had no business winning that ballgame. All right. But what they do, they held Arizona to 1 touchdown in 6 red zone opportunities. And Sam Darnold's been doing this again and again, rallying them back at key portions of the game, the fourth quarter, overtime. Darnold's been really good. Kevin O'Connell after the game. Sam's been absolutely huge for us in these moments where everybody needs him. Again, he passed for almost half his yards in the fourth quarter yesterday. Last week in Chicago in overtime, 6 for 6 for 90 yards. His quote, dude, I'm just going to continue to do my job every single day, and I'm going to keep it that simple. Of course, 6 previous NFL seasons, he never had more than 7 wins as a starter. He's got 8 wins this year. Certainly positive sign for Minnesota, a team that, in a division that's tough, Vikings continue to hold serve.
We got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4 up next, 1 o'clock Eastern. New Orleans and the New York Giants. We are seeing the Saints minus 5-point road favorites here, Teddy. 40 and a hook being the total. Looks to be the lowest total on the board for Sunday.
Yeah, look ahead line here. New Orleans minus 4, total of 40.5. My powering number is the Saints 4.5. The markets opened 4/4.5 last night, total of 39.5. And we're seeing the 4s have been taken out. Most of the 4.5s have been taken out. We're seeing mostly 5s for New Orleans right now. A total 39.5 last night. We have seen some over money as well. So Saints money and over money initially. And if you think I'm laying 5 points with the Saints, you've come to the wrong show, because I ain't going to lay 5 points with the Saints. I mean, there were some very positive signs for New Orleans yesterday. They completely dominated the first half against the Rams. Of course, they led only 6-0 after complete dominance. Alvin Kamara was great. The running game worked. Kamara had 112 yards running the football in that contest. Or Rizzy after the game, quote, we did a lot of things in that game that we set out to do and played the game in a lot of ways that we wanted to, but we didn't execute in crunch time. We had a chance to win there. We had a guy open the end zone. We can't get the ball off. So unfortunate. And it was unfortunate. That being said, I mean, that crowd was dead in the Super Bowl. The Saints are down 7, driving late. It was like crickets. Derek Carr, no picks, no sacks, but just 184 on 5 yards per pass attempt, 37 attempts, missing receivers. Carr is what he is right now, which is a quarterback that's not going to get you to the playoffs. And then the injury report after the game. Tyrann Mathieu got hurt. We had Eric McCoy get hurt, or he was unable to return. Another offensive line injury, Nick Saldivieri, was carted off with a knee injury. And then the Taysom Hill injury, which is Taysom Hill's been their top playmaker in a lot of ways. And without him, that offense is even more limited. I can't lay this price with the Saints. I'm surprised the markets are asking us to lay this price with the Saints. That being said, if you want the Giants, well, let's see. They had their first lead since week 5 against Dallas. So I guess that's something. They haven't even had a lead. 4.2 yards per play, 3.4 yards per pass attempt with Drew Lock, 13 penalties, -2 turnovers, officially eliminated from playoff contention. Brian Duvall. I don't like the results. Nobody likes the results. But again, I have confidence in the people. Just got to do better. That's not a bet on quote. This game, not likely to get a ton of action from public bettors. And the wise guys right now, like New Orleans, not my money. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it is a surprising one, a tough one to get involved in. And guys, I did say that was the lowest total at 40 and a hook, but we've seen some movement in that one towards the over and the next one towards the under. So actually, this one being the lowest total, and it's Jacksonville and Tennessee, 1 o'clock Eastern kick, 40 flat at most shops being the total, -3 and a hook. That is the Titans at home in Nashville, Teddy.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Tennessee -3 even money. So -3 plus 100. Which means +3 for Jacksonville, -120 at the Westgate. A total 42 at the open. My powering number with Trevor Lawrence out again, 4 for Tennessee. The markets opened 4.5/40 last night, and we've seen some Jaguars money since then down to 3.5 and 40/40.5 this morning. So a little bit of Jacksonville money, a little bit of over money. So I had a good weekend for the clients in the NFL and in college both. I got one really wrong in the NFL. That was Tennessee. I had Tennessee plus the points in Washington. And I thought about that, I had really mixed thoughts on that, because part of me was like, I want to ride this Titans team. I really do. I think there's money to be made with them. And part of me is like, yeah, they just got the win. Maybe it's an exhale spot. And the latter of the two was absolutely right. They were down 28-0 in that ball game before. I mean, it was over early in the early second quarter. There was 2 Washington scoring drives and then 2 Titans fumbles, and then it was garbage time the rest of the way. Will Levis after the game. Keep going. It's all we can do. We just keep finding different ways to shoot ourselves in the foot. It certainly wasn't a good performance for Tennessee. I think they have a better game in them than the one we just saw. Perhaps a divisional rival will pull that out for them. Of course, the Jaguars, look, all right, don't be fooled by that box score. And the money coming for Jacksonville here, I think, has something to do with that box score. All right, Mac Jones was 20 of 32, 235, 2 touchdowns, no picks after Trevor Lawrence was knocked out of the game on that dirty hit. Well, guess what? That was a 23-6 deficit with 8 minutes to play, and then the Texans were ready for the bye week. The last 2 drives on defense, they didn't have a whole lot of juice, and the Jags were able to matriculate the ball down the field into the end zone. 23-20 final. Bad beat if you had Houston. They were the right side in that ball game. Well, after Lawrence was knocked out, they were the right side in that ball game. But I did not view that as a buy sign on the Jaguars. Mac Jones after the game. We definitely came together as a team and fought hard for Trevor. Came up short in the end, but I like that the guys responded. Okay, guess what? The Jags still stink. I think Tennessee's the better team, and the markets do as well. And again, we've seen a little bit of early Jacksonville money. Yeah, I think Tennessee's a better team. I don't know if I'm ready to lay more than a field goal with them in any ball game, even against a Jags team that is headed towards a rebuild once this season is through.
We got 127, 128 up next, guys. Las Vegas Raiders heading to the Sunshine State to take on the Tampa Bay Bucks. We're seeing Bucks minus 7-point home favorites, 45 being the total. I remember last week's show here, TC, saying the Bucks might be a buy sign. They held off Carolina last week, but non-cover, laying a touchdown here, hosting the Raiders and Raymond James.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Tampa minus 7.5, total 45.5. My powering number came Bucks minus 7. It was a split line last night. There were minus 7s and minus 7.5s out there. 44.5 at the open, so a little bit down from the look ahead line. And the betting markets have taken out the 7s in early betting action today. The 7.5s in early betting action today. The line pretty much 7 across the board. And we've seen a little bit of over money off the 44.5. Now it's 45. So the total. Markets aren't sure what to do with the total. We have seen, again, the 7.5, the key number off Tampa, the 7, we've seen the takeout. That's not necessarily an opinion about the game. It's wise guys taking numbers around a key number that they don't know is going to be there later in the week. The Raiders will have a little bit of extra time to prepare. They played on Friday. And I'll tell you what, there were some really positive signs from the Raiders in that ball game. Aiden O'Connell's better than Gardner Minshew. All right, he could take downfield shots, and we saw it, 9.7 yards per pass attempt. He was sacked 3 times, but he threw for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks against KC. 9 penalties for 101 yards. They lost the turnover battle. The running game worked for the Raiders. 25 carries for $116 against KC. And obviously you had the botch snap in the final field goal attempt. They spiked the ball in the Kansas City 32 to stop the clock, and then they wanted to run one more play because Daniel Carson had already missed 3 different field goals from 50 plus. And, well, the botch snap, no chance. Frustrating loss. Antonio Pierce after defeat. These guys battled till the very end, till the clock hit 0. They believed we were going to win and fought their butts off to the very end. All phases contributed to help us get in that position. Aiden did a hell of a job. He stayed in the pocket, made big-time throws for us, pushed the ball down the field. The numbers say what they're going to say. I'm proud of my team, our team. I'm proud of the fight. We came up short yet again against the world champ twice now. That being said, the Raiders have fought the good fight. They've trailed by double digits in every game this season, and yet they haven't been blown out repeatedly. They've been in these games. They've been officially eliminated from playoff contention after the loss, and certainly an early start game off a loss like that on the East Coast. It's not an easy spot for the Raiders. But again, I think they're better with O'Connell than they were with Minshew. As for the Bucks, they survived yesterday. He decided awful. Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to call it a Kirk Cousins level of performance, but he wasn't real good. 2 interceptions, 4 sacks. He made a lot of mistakes. But they ran the football, something Tampa struggled to do. Bucky Irving, Rashad White combined 36 carries, 228 on the ground. Defense wasn't great. Todd Bowles after the game, the football gods were kind to us. the first half of the season, we wouldn't have finished that one out. We did a heck of a job fighting back all game. It was a tough game. They played tough. Positive sign for Carolina. We made mistakes the first half of the season. In this game, we pulled it out. We've learned some mental toughness. That's a good quote with Tampa, perhaps in a pick'em game or in an underdog game. It's not necessarily the quote I'm looking for. We're talking about laying a touchdown. So, yeah, I don't know what to do here. The markets have taken the good number with the Raiders. I would expect this game to hang around 7 all week. We could see some public money for Tampa, but I'm not anticipating a whole lot more line move on this one than what we've already seen.
We got 10 a.m. Pacific kick up next. Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We are seeing the Steelers -6 in the hook. There is a -7 out there. 41.5, 42 being the total. Do note the Browns play Monday Night Football against the Broncos tonight, but it's Cleveland at Pittsburgh from the Steel City up next, TC.
Look ahead line, Pittsburgh -6.5, 40.5. My powering number heading into Monday Night Football, Pittsburgh -7.5. I've been a little bit off market on the Steelers of late, and it's served my clients and I very well. Mike Tomlin will get another Christmas card. He's already cashed 2 big ticket winners for me in November, and he cashed another one for me yesterday. That was a 4-star, was my strongest play of the day in the NFL. So Pittsburgh is a team that I've admired and enjoyed in recent weeks. Last night opened 6.5/7, 41.5 was a split line last night. We're seeing more 6.5s and 7s today, though there are 7s. The books that the books that have 7s, I would call them leading indicator books. So that's worth noting. We could see this line move back to 7 if you like Pittsburgh -6.5. Again, we'll see what happens on Monday Night Football. But if Cleveland doesn't show well, I would expect 7s to be widely available if you like the Browns tomorrow. Russell Wilson threw that pick 6 to open the game, and then afterwards 29 of 38 for, well, actually 29 of 37 after that pick 6. 414 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10.9 yards per pass attempt. The running game worked with the downfield passing game. Najee Harris had a big game. Wilson, it was fun. We just had a great time. We knew it was a matchup. We knew it was going to be a heavyweight fight. Of course, Wilson's now 5-1 as the Steelers starter. Concerning defensive showing, Joe Burrow was phenomenal yesterday, 8.1 yards per pass attempt. The defense got torched, and yet they still found a way to win. You don't expect the Steelers to win a whole lot of games where the defense gives up, 31 points plus the pick 6. But when their opponent gets to 38, that's not a poison. That's not a total range that we expect Pittsburgh to win and cover. And yet that's exactly what they did yesterday. We like teams that can win low-scoring games and high-scoring games when the situation presents itself. And the Steelers have consistently been undervalued in the betting marketplace basically all year long.
131, 132 up next. Carolina Panthers, Philadelphia Eagles. We see the Eagles -12.5, -12. Heavy favorites here at home. 45 and a hook being the total. The Panthers, hey, rough season, but they've covered a couple games here. Heading to Philadelphia up next, TC.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Eagles -13, total 45.5. My powering number, Eagles -11.5. The market's open 12.5/13 last night, total 45.5. And this morning, total hasn't moved, still sitting 45.5. Let's call 12.5 the prevailing number. The 13s have largely been taken out. So for Carolina, look, this was a non-competitive team that is now playing competitive football. Bryce Young has saved his career, let's say. No interceptions, only 1 sack. He's an NFL quarterback now. But that being said, the Panthers found a way to lose an OT, coming off an OT loss, playing against an elite opponent who can blow them up at the line of scrimmage. And for all that Carolina is playing competitive, look, when it comes to the offensive line, Carolina way below par. When it comes to skill position talent, Carolina way below par. When it comes to the defense right now, Carolina way below par. This is a complete rebuild from a team that had nothing. And they're not going to be good, even if they're more competitive than they have been. Defense, gashed on the ground all day yesterday. 6.1 yards per carry, 236 rushing yards. And they were still in position to win the game before Chuba Hubbard fumbled in overtime. 1 of 4 in the red zone. Dave Canales after the game, we have to put together a full complement of quarters, a full 4 quarters to become the team we want to become. There's certainly positive signs for Carolina. I'm not convinced. It's an interesting game because I don't love this spot for Philly either. That was a huge win against Baltimore. They're on a big winning streak, and now they're being asked to win by margin in a game where they could easily look past. Jalen Hurts didn't have to do a whole lot, against an elite Ravens run defense. Saquon had another 100-yard game, and Hurts only had 11 completions for 118 yards. Someone asked Nick Sirianni after the game how he thought that his team did matching Baltimore's physicality. Quote, they had to match ours. That was our message going in, that they got to match our physicality. Again, it's a very physical team. It's a well-coached team. This team has a lot of good players. But yeah, I want that question rephrased a little bit. Can Philly find that same juice this week in an obvious flat spot? I'm not convinced they will. And of course, the Eagles, one thing that definitely worked in their favor yesterday, the punter, Brandon Mann, 5 punts down inside the 20, 2 inside the 10. When you're giving your opponent long fields for the entire game, it makes it that much more difficult to score. If he does that against Carolina, and Carolina starts 5 drives inside their own 20, it's going to be difficult for them to cover. But I'll tell you what, my first lean is towards the Panthers plus the points in this one, although it's just a lean right now. I haven't bet it yet.
All right, Teddy, as we get the last early kick up next, 1 o'clock Eastern, it is the Jets at the Dolphins. 45.5 being the total. It's Dolphins -6 in the hook. Pretty much across the board here. Jets at Dolphins from Miami Gardens up next.
Yeah, no time changes this week. No games getting flexed out. No games getting flexed in. All the 10 o'clock games are at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock games for you guys back east. All the 4 o'clock games are at 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock here on the West Coast. There was talk about flexing the Monday Night Football game out, but the Simpsons did a show around it or something that they can't flex that particular game out. So there's no movement to the schedule. So we have the Jets and the Dolphins, the last early start game here. Look ahead line here, Miami -6.5, total 44.5. My power rating, Miami -6.5. The market's open, Miami -6.5 and 45 last night, and that's exactly where we're sitting this morning. We could see 7s. It wouldn't shock me if we saw 7s, but the fact that it opened, look ahead was 6.5, open 6.5, my power rating 6.5, and it hasn't moved yet. I'm not convinced that the market's moved to 7 on this ballgame because, look, the Jets aren't getting killed. They're just not winning any games. Jets had a 14-0 lead. They had a kick return touchdown, and they didn't score another point. Shut out the last 40 minutes of the game yesterday against Seattle. Aaron Rodgers threw the 92-yard pick 6 to former Jet Leonard Williams. The Jets now fall to 3-9. They've clinched their 9th consecutive losing season. Aaron Rodgers after the game, well, there are 11 guys on the field. Sometimes it's my fault, definitely multiple times today. And then the details aren't there in some other spots too. Interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich, are you contemplating a quarterback change? Quote, not as of today, as opposed to no. We don't think Tyrod Taylor's going to play. Why would they play Tyrod Taylor? He's not the QB of the future any more than Aaron Rodgers is for New York. But the Jets have crashed and burned now 2 years in a row. The effort was there yesterday. The effort's there every day. The talent's there for the Jets. The execution is not. Rodgers plays at the end of the second quarter. Plays at the end of the second quarter cost us this game. Then comes the fourth quarter. It's execution. It's strain. It's the little things. It's accuracy. And we just have a lot to go around, myself included, first and foremost. Yeah, the attention to detail hasn't been there. We got the Dolphins coming off a bad loss at Lambeau Field. It was 27 degrees, wind chill of 18. Tua after the game, I would say from my standpoint and our team standpoint, we're not going to use any of that as an excuse why we didn't get the start we wanted. Of course, they were down 24-3 at halftime. The box score is garbage. Yeah, they moved the ball in the second half. Tua had 365 passing yards. So what? They were never in the game. They abandoned the running game early, only 39 yards on the ground. Calais Campbell. This is an interesting quote off a bad loss. Quote, we fought hard. We have no quit in us. I really genuinely believe we were going to give ourselves a chance to win in the end. Didn't work out that way for Miami, but certainly a bounce back spot potential here with a little bit extra time to prepare. And Miami still hanging on to brief, to slim playoff hopes even after the loss against the Packers.
Afternoon kicks for the next three as we got Seattle and Arizona. We're seeing the Cardinals minus 3-point home favorites, 45 being the total. It is the Seahawks at the Cardinals from the desert, TC.
Look ahead line, Arizona minus 2.5, 46.5. My powering number only comes Arizona 1. I've been a little bit off market on Seattle the last couple of weeks, and it's, again, served me well yesterday. I had the Seahawks against the Jets. I don't know if that was a right side or wrong side or what the heck it was, but Seattle found a way to win the stupid game, which is all I needed them to do. So anyhow, my powering number here is only Arizona minus 1. I'm a little bit higher in the markets on the Seahawks. Last night opened Arizona 2.5, and I think it's a 4. Is that a 48 or a 45? That's a 45. Sorry. I can't read my own chicken scratch over here. A 2.5 and 45. And we're seeing mostly 2.5. There are 3s popping up. So if you like Seattle, find a 3. If you like Arizona, find a 2.5. Those, doing that kind of stuff on a Monday morning or early on Monday, it's just smart betting. It really is. Arizona, there's so much, right? I mean, they should have won that game yesterday and cashed my over-season win bets, and now I got to still sweat them for another week or two in that regard. They had 154 rushing yards at Minnesota. They sacked Sam Darnold 5 times. The defense played great till the end, but 10 penalties, 2 turnovers, and 1 of 6 in the red zone. They just couldn't put the biscuit in the basket when they had their chances down by the goal line. Kyler Murray after the game, that's a good team over there. We had a chance to put them away, and we didn't. There's certainly some urgency for Arizona now. Fell out of first place with that loss. There's urgency against Seattle. They're 0-6, their last 6 against the Seahawks, including a 16-6 poorly played loss in Seattle just 2 weeks ago. Worth noting for Arizona, their first-round draft pick, who's been sidelined all season, Darius Robinson on the defensive line. He made an NFL debut yesterday, and he could potentially be an impact player moving forward. As for Seattle, I mean, 3rd straight win, sole possession of first place in the NFC West right now. And yesterday it was a bizarre game. Mike McDonald after the game. What a crazy game. I think it's the first time it happened in the NFL, the whole series of events in the first half. Our guys were resilient. We didn't bat an eye. We stayed the course. Geno Smith. I'm not going to make it about myself, about beating his former team. I really did enjoy my time in New York, but we're on a mission right now. The Jets were the next opponent. And that was the same quote I talked about last week from Seattle, where they're talking about stacking wins, put this one behind us, let's get the next one. And of course, Leonard Williams with the longest interception return touchdown for a defensive lineman in NFL history in yesterday's ballgame. Obviously, that was a huge factor in Seattle's come-from-behind win against the Jets. Likely to be a little bit tougher this week against an Arizona team that, I'm not going to say they're playing for their season, but it's a win that they need against an opponent that's had their number, a divisional rival that's had their number.
Guys, a reminder, Teddy mentioned it at the top. We get $100 off December all-access package. It includes all sports, all plays, handicapper of your choice. Teddy covers, Drew Martin are available there. All plays, including 5% plays for $100 off. All access in December starts tomorrow. Speaking of 5%, I got one up for tonight. Cyber Monday special going at wagertalk.com. 5% max limit for Monday Night Football. Next game up, we get Buffalo and the LA Rams. We're seeing the Bills -4. There are 4 and a hooks out there. So land some points on the road, cross country here, Teddy. 49 being the total. Bills at Rams.
Yeah, worth noting that December all access. No promo code needed for that. That will be live on Tuesday, tomorrow, for the Cyber Monday deal. 25% off all regularly priced packages. Use promo code CYBER25 at checkout. So you will need the promo code for that. A little flash sale we're running today on Monday. So let's see. What do we got? Buffalo and LA. Look headline. Bills -3.5, 48.5. My powering number only came 2.5 for this ball game. Markets were 4/4.5 for kickoff last night, 49. And we're looking at pretty much 4.5s right now. There are some 4s out there, total holding at 49 for the Bills and the Rams. I mean, look, Buffalo did some really impressive things yesterday against San Francisco. 38 carries, 220 yards on the ground against the 49ers. Josh Allen didn't even need to throw. 13-17. 148 yards. He became only the seventh player in the Super Bowl era to score a touchdown, passing, rushing, and receiving with the game where he threw the pass and was Amari Cooper pitched it to him, and it was behind the line of scrimmage, so he got credit for the throwing touchdown and the receiving touchdown on the same play. Josh Allen now the favorite. We have to lay a price with him to win the MVP. It was an MVP statement game. Offense didn't have a turnover. Defense forced 3. Josh Allen after the game. This one feels a little different. Oh, I'm sorry. And the Bills clinched first place, clinched the AFC East division title with that victory. Again, they clinched it December 1st. Josh Allen, quote, "This one feels a little bit different about clinching the division title. So this early in the season. So the cool thing about it, we get to go out there, we get to play free. There's really no repercussions for what we're doing. But at the same time, we're chasing the number 1 seed. We understand that. We know that we got to keep getting better each and every week." So, yeah, that's morale. It's a good feeling. It's going to be fun. To go out there and play free and play relaxed and play loose. I think that could be a danger. I think that could be a dangerous team. Bills now, 7 straight wins since those back-to-back losses, week 4 and 5. They're 10-2 or better for the 5th time in team history, the first time since 1991. They became the only 8th team in league history, the first since the Colts in 2009 to clinch a division title with 5 games remaining. The offense has scored 30-plus in 6 straight games. Love this quote from Rasul Douglas. Quote, "It's like the participation trophy. All right, now we're participating in something bigger, but it don't really mean nothing. You want some hardware, something you keep forever, the whole trophy or ring or something you can remember forever with." So Rasul Douglas saying, yeah, we won the division. Great. That's not our goal. Sean McDermott's quote about how Buffalo is going to play moving forward. Quote, "It's probably the next goal for us is to position ourselves the best we can. We control a piece of that, and then some of that we don't. So it's really about our level of play every week, getting to the level that it needs to be, and that usually puts you in a good spot one way or the other." It'll definitely be interesting to watch the Bills and see their intensity level this week, if they can match what they've been doing in recent weeks. As for the Rams, they played a pretty awful first half. They were shut out for the first time since losing that Super Bowl 13-3 to the Patriots with Jared Goff behind center. And then second half came out and pretty much dominated. Certainly offensively they dominated, and then they shut the Saints down in the red zone when it mattered most, 3 for 3 in the red zone. Second half, they held the Saints without a TD in both of their red zone chances. Matthew Stafford, quote, "The first half was definitely frustrating, but we knew at the same time, every time we were handing it off, we were getting good yards. You have to keep playing. Football is a game of ebbs and flows, and the Rams have clearly demonstrated that throughout the course of the season." Sean McVay, "All we could do was get 1 win this week, and we were able to. There was improvement for our team collectively, and that's what I want to continue to see." Certainly, the Rams match up okay with Buffalo. If I start seeing any signs that the Bills might be not fully intense after clinching that division and coming off that huge blowout over San Fran, maybe we'll look at the Rams as home dogs. Although, like all Rams home games, they won't have the home field advantage. Crowd support likely to come for Buffalo in this one, even at SoFi Stadium.
Interesting tidbits there, Teddy, as we got a final afternoon kick up next. Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers. It is the Niners, -4 at most shops. There is a 3 and a hook out there with some juice. 44 mostly being the total. Bears at Niners next up.
Yeah, look at line here. San Fran -6, total of 44.5. My powering number, San Fran only 3.5 over Chicago. Markets were split last night. We saw 3.5s, we saw 4s, we saw 4.5s, total of 44. And this morning, basically, the markets are kind of split the difference. The 3.5s are mostly gone. The 4.5s are mostly gone. Mostly 4s out there. But if you shop around, you can still lay 3.5 with San Fran right now. You can still take 4.5 with Chicago right now, as the markets, again, have kind of moved towards 4. We have the Bears in the first game after the head coach got fired. Worth noting, Brown, the guy who was brought in as the new offense coordinator when Shane Waldron got fired, now he's the new head coach. So someone that wasn't even there for the preseason is now running the organization. That may not be a great thing. And frankly, if Chicago hadn't figured out that Matt Eberflus has lost the locker room, what happened in the final 30 seconds of the game against Detroit was certainly the final. I mean, that was a debacle. And that's all on the head coach. And okay, I have in my head, I'm going to save this timeout. But when your quarterback gets sacked, you have to change that thought process. You have to change it quickly. And Eberflus didn't do that. And the results were what they are. And he finished, 5-17 games decided by 7 or fewer points. That ranks 221st and last among coaches with at least 20 games that close in the history of the NFL. And look, there are positives for Chicago, all right? 2 weeks ago, rallied back from an 11-point deficit in the last 22 seconds against Minnesota and then lost in overtime. This week against Detroit, pretty awful early on in that ball game. Didn't flinch, rallied back, made a game of it, found a way to lose again. But it's a Bears team that at least has, in theory, they're going to get some new coach bump. And in theory, we're talking about a team that has shown that they haven't quit even when facing adversity. San Fran, another loss yesterday. This is clearly not a Super Bowl team. Doesn't look like a playoff team right now. George Kittle after the game. Again, non-competitive in defeat, which is not what we're used to seeing for the 49ers. Back-to-back weeks. And both were road games. Both were against quality foes. But, Brock Purdy came back and threw for 94 yards. Deebo Samuel has as many touchdown catches this year as Josh Allen does. Christian McCaffrey hurt. He's out for the year. Defense didn't force a turnover. Offense turned the ball over 3 times themselves. The 49ers 0-5 when scoring 20 points or less this season. The defense can't carry them this year. And Green Bay ran all over them, George Kittle, quote, "It feels dark and gloomy and absolutely depressing, honestly. I'll feel that in a couple hours. The only way to make this feel better is take advantage of next week and try to get a win." Would make them feel better. Not with my money.
For sure, Teddy. And shout out to the live chat, guys. We got Omar, Little Bull, Grits in the house, Chris as well. Thanks for chiming in, guys. Any questions, fire away in the live chat. Also in the comments below, got a couple from last week's show we'll be able to hit at the end here. So fire away in the live chat as well. We get Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football to end it here, Teddy. 141, 142. It is the LA Chargers, Kansas City Chiefs up next. It is Chiefs -4, 43 being the total. Chargers at Chiefs from Arrowhead.
Look headline here. Kansas City 5.5, 44.5. My powering number came KC 4. Markets opened mostly 3.5 last night. We're seeing 4s across the board today. Total 43.5 last night. Someone took out the hook, and we're seeing mostly 43s out there this morning. There is a 42.5 for that total out there as well as we speak. Kansas City, what do? They don't dominate anyone. They find a way to win close games. NFL record extended. 14 consecutive W's in one possession games. That's insane. 10 straight years that they made the playoffs. That's the second longest streak in NFL history. 10 straight playoff berths that they did. And they did it in a game where Mahomes was sacked 5 times. The running game had, 63 yards on the ground. They were out-yarded by 2 yards per play. KC had 4.9. Las Vegas had 6.9. And they still won the game. And obviously, some of that was kicker luck. A lot of it was kicker luck. But there are enough flaws with KC that we have to point them out. All right. Mahomes doesn't have time to throw. We're not seeing great play from the tackles on the offensive line. Secondary has been breaking down a fair bit. Penalties have been a problem. Mahomes after the game, quote, "We hold ourselves to such a high standard. We don't feel like we're playing our best football. We got to find a way to build up and play great as a full entire team. It's awesome that we're finding ways to get wins that we're going for, but our goal is to get to the Super Bowl." So KC, not an easy team to lay points with right now, though the price range here more reasonable than it was last week. As for the Chargers, without J.K. Dobbins, the running game didn't work. Only 56 yards on the ground. Their only touchdown in yesterday's game came on a pick 6, the offense for the entirety of the game. 3 field goals, only 2 first downs after halftime. Atlanta had 10 sacks all year coming into yesterday's game. They sacked Justin Herbert 5 times in that game. Ladd McConkey, 9 catches for 117 yards. The rest of the team, only 33 receiving yards, only 10 first downs, only 187 total yards, 4.1 yards per play. And McConkey got hurt late in the game. Check his status. Haven't seen an update this morning, but if he's out, that is a problem for an offense that's struggling. Quentin Johnson, how did he bounce back off the Monday night debacle or the Sunday night debacle, whatever that freaking awful game was? I think it was Monday night. Well, he bounced back by getting 12 receiving yards on 4 targets. Non-bounce back. They had a fake punt. They didn't work. And yet they won the game. Jim Harbaugh. It's a beautiful thing. We're witnessing complimentary winning football. The defense was able to dominate. Justin Herbert, obviously not the way that we want to play. We want because the defense today, we have to do a better job as an offense. We get that. Certainly, Chargers have been feisty underdogs. Chiefs aren't winning by margin, but only one of these two teams right now is an offense that we trust. KC, despite all their failures as favorites, they're not a team I'm looking to step in front of again, even though they're again coming off a performance where they didn't live up to expectations.
A lot of comments on this one, guys. Appreciate it in the live chat. Coin, Chris, Little Bull, Grits, all we'll answer the questions at the end of the show. We got one game left here. It's Monday, December 9th. It is Cincinnati and Dallas. And we are seeing the Bengals -5 and a hook. There is -6 out there, but mostly 5 in the hook right now. 49.5 being the total. Bengals at Cowboys Monday Night Football, TC.
So this is interesting. All right, because I've been off market on Cincinnati. Apparently, I'm way off market on Cincinnati right now, and I don't care. Look ahead line, Bengals 6.5, 45. My powering number, Cincinnati 2. The market 6, 48.5 at the open. 6, a couple of 5.5s popping up, 49.5 today. So we've seen a little bit of over money. We've seen a little bit of Cowboys number money. But again, my number is 2. The markets are 6. That doesn't happen in December very often. Really doesn't. The Bengals allowed 7.9 yards per play against Pittsburgh, 44 points. Not good. They have become the first team in NFL history, to lose 4 games or more when scoring at least 33 points. The defense has allowed 34 points or more 4 times their last 5 ball games. Joe Burrow, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this season. 3 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have done it before in the first 12 games of the season. Their names are Brady, Rodgers, and Mahomes. A combined 5 times for those 3 quarterbacks who have gone 30 touchdowns, 5 picks in the first 12 games. The Brady, Rodgers, and Mahomes teams that did it 5 times, all of those teams were 9-3 or better. A couple of them were 12-0. The Bengals are 4-8 with Joe Burrow playing out of his mind. The quotes coming out of Cincy after the game, Jamar Chase, quote, hard to process. We can't get a win right now. We've had a little margin for error for a while now. Got to find a way. That's not a positive quote. Joe Burrow, quote, I think we'll learn a lot about who we have in the locker room, the guys we can count on going forward and the guys we can't. This is a tough season, and the cornerstones of this organization are going to be remembered by more than just this season. Will be remembered by how we handled this. The truth is, no, you won't. You'll be remembered by the seasons that you did well. But Cincy, again, is a team. I can't lay 6 points with Cincinnati right now. Not with this defense. And all of a sudden, Dallas, back-to-back wins after a 5-game skid. The running game worked against the Giants. Rico Dowdle with a 100-yard game, 22 carries for 112 yards. I think it's the first time all year Dallas had a 100-yard rusher. They didn't turn the ball over. The defense forced 2, including a pick 6. Cooper Rush. We just needed that one last week, kind of get the ball rolling. Felt that victory feeling in the locker post-game last week. Everything's kind of coming together. Feeling good about it. That's not the kind of quote I'm getting from the Cincinnati sideline here. If I'm playing Monday Night Football, it will not be on the favorite.
Great stuff, Teddy. We got a couple questions here, guys. Aubrey asking, TC, what do you make of the super obviously wrong line moves this past week and how to take advantage going forward? He brings up Atlanta and the LA Chargers, Seattle and the New York Jets as well from this past week. line moves being off. Do you carry that over to the next week, Teddy?
Not even a little bit. When you see betting market support for a team week in, week out, you pay attention. And the Jets have gotten betting market support all year. The wise guys love them Jets. They love losing money with the Jets. We saw Jets money yesterday again. And if you're power rating the Jets based on talent, the money probably should go towards New York. But if you're power rating them based on results and execution, and not so much. When it comes to NFL line moves, bettors oftentimes, in my opinion, and it's a great question, they spend a little bit too much time worrying about who the pros are on and who the Joes are on. And in my mind, you'll do better if you spend more time just trying to figure out who you like and not worry about who other people like. Figure out where the matchups work in your favor. Figure out where the situations work in your favor. The consensus data is interesting. It's one of many different points you can get into. Lots of big consensus favorites won yesterday. Seattle won and covered me. They were a big consensus. We can't take popular underdogs. Well, Pittsburgh won and covered me yesterday. They were a popular underdog. I'd worry less about what other people are thinking and worry more about what you're thinking. In my mind, people get so distracted by who do the pros like, who do the Joes like, they lose track of what's the right side in this game. What's the matchup edge? What's the situation edge? Where does my point spread, my power rating say there's value? In my mind, those are more meaningful. College basketball early season, you don't want to be betting against the line moves, especially on totals. NFL by December, I'll bet against line moves all day. No problem.
That's a great point, Teddy. Guys, it's not apples to apples, like sport to sport, time of the season as well. That was gold there, Teddy. And one thing I'll add on to what Teddy said is as sports betting content has become bigger over the last half decade or so, it's almost easier for these content creators to go look at public and an amount of bets. It becomes very easy just to do a video on that. And I almost think it gets overplayed, Teddy. Give me a matchup handicap over that type of handicap 10 out of 10 times, man. Like you said, it's just one piece of the handicap. That was well said, Teddy.
Yeah,
right,
and
Omar. Go ahead.
Just give me one last thing on that, because you made a great point. There is an enormous amount of sports betting content out there. Wherever you get your sports betting content, here, there, anywhere, I would encourage you, look for sports betting content from people that actually bet.
Well said, Teddy.
Because there's a lot of crap out there from people that don't and have never shown a profit betting and have no idea what the F they're doing. And they got, the TikTok or the the Instagram or the X follows. And it's nonsense. It's clickbait. This show is not clickbait.
No, absolutely not. Teddy always bringing the heat here, guys. And I appreciate all the questions in the live chat, comments below. If you're watching on replay, feel free to comment below. Anything is welcome out there, guys, where you agree, where you disagree, what your picks are, and any questions, we'll answer them on next week's show. We got Omar in the house. We got Coin. They're asking kind of the same question here on the last game we broke down. Chargers not running the ball well since the first month of the season. Omar saying here, Teddy, and Coin on top of that question, Teddy, what do you think about the Chargers run game with Dobbins out 2 weeks now? It has really struggled.
Yeah, really struggled. And it's the strength of the Chargers. One of the strengths of the Chargers is supposed to be the offensive line. And that offensive line has really not held up that well, particularly the interior. Their tackles have played fine. Herbert's not been on it. I mean, yesterday they didn't. They had a rough day. But the interior of that offensive line is a problem. They're not blowing holes open for the backs. And I don't know that that's anything that's going to improve down the stretch in December. So my powering number for the Chargers is ticked. I mean, it hasn't crashed, but it's ticked down the last couple of weeks. Although they showed us yesterday, even with, a lot of it was Cousins making bad decisions, but defense capable of winning games and covering point spreads, even on a day where the offense does nothing. And that complementary football is a positive sign for LA. So I didn't downgrade in any significant way, but I've ticked them down the last couple of weeks.
Teddy, we got a question here at the top of the show, actually, from KJP. Question for Teddy. If Cleveland looks poor tonight, is it a no-brainer to take Pittsburgh to hammer these Browns in the revenge game? You touched on it a little bit, but with tonight's game pending, is that something you're looking towards? -6.5, -7 right now, Cleveland and Pittsburgh?
If you bet Denver tonight, I wouldn't argue with the concept of laying with Pittsburgh right now. I really wouldn't, especially at 6.5. Because if the Broncos smash the Browns, his number is likely to come 7 tomorrow. So if you do like Denver, and I lean in their direction, but I didn't bet it. But if you like Denver, it does make sense to make 2 anti-Cleveland bets in this situation, not 1. As long as you're getting the 6.5, because the 6.5 may not be there if the Browns have a rough night in the Mile High air.
Teddy, a couple comments here on last week's show, and you touched on this before, but emergency betting alerts. People asking about them. It's kind of water under the bridge, though, huh?
Yeah, so we were doing emergency betting alerts, and honestly, if we did the show Sunday night at midnight, emergency betting alerts make a ton of sense. What I found is that the markets move a lot on Monday morning right before we go on air, and the emergency betting alerts that I was giving out weren't predictive enough. They weren't good enough. And if they're crappy, I'm not going to do it. If I'm not accurately, what I changed is I've been trying to say, if you like this, bet it now. If you want this side, get it now. And that's, I guess, the same as an emergency betting alert, but it's not, I'm predicting the entire market's going to move this way. Because so I was giving out emergency betting alerts on Monday, and then the markets weren't moving that way. So if it's not predictive, I ain't going to do it anymore. It's that simple. That said, the concept is still very much within the show every week. I'm just saying, if you like this side, bet it sooner, not later. If you like this, wait till closer to kickoff. And that's in many ways the point. One of the points of the NFL opening line report is when to bet it. Still doing that. We just took out the doodly oop, which I do miss, but. It wasn't good. Sure,
Teddy. I do miss that little slogan we had going, but hey, guys, it is what it is. We got time for. Yeah, that's for the old timers there. I appreciate that, Dan. All right, time for one more here, Teddy. We get CW Wren in the house saying, is the prevailing thought still that home field is 1.5 point advantage? He looks at Pittsburgh and Cincy yesterday. Would Cincy really be a 1.5 favorite on a neutral field? 1.5 home field advantage in the NFL. How much different is that for you, college football to the NFL, or is it team dependent, Teddy?
So my prevailing number is 1.5. It varies by team. Cincy is not a team I give 1.5 to. And we, they're home field. And there are lots of teams you're not going to give 1.5 to. That should give either a point, half a point. But 1.5 is the prevailing number. But you're the Giants home field worth 1.5? Hell no. Dallas, not really. Lots of home fields aren't worth anything. Maybe give them a point for travel, but even that has proven to be too much. But so the general thought is, yes, 1.5 for home field. And when I moved to Vegas, 1998, that was worth 3. And it was worth 2.5, and it was worth 2. Now it's worth 1.5. So the long-term trend is home field edges worth less and less, and not just in the NFL. Same story in college football, same story in the NBA. Same story in baseball in a lot of ways, most of the sports. Now, college hoops, the home court's still worth a lot in November, December, less so as the season progresses. So that's a nuance worth noting.
Teddy covers at Teddy_covers on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, NFL opening line report going each and every Monday on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, 10 a.m. Pacific. Come back and join us next week as well, as we got the December All Access special, guys, $100 off. That starts on Tuesday. WagerTalk.com. Can check out Teddy there. It is all sports, all picks, 5% plays included. We got a 5% up tonight, max limit. The Cyber Monday special going on Monday for you guys watching here live. And Teddy, throw it over to you. Anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Yeah, so guys, your feedback in the comments section blows me away every week. I appreciate all the comments, and Drew and I both get in there. I know last week I only had one chance to get in there because I flew out of town. What are you going to do? I get to spend some time with my family too. But I'll be in there this week, and I appreciate all the comments, appreciate all the likes, appreciate all the follows. If you do like the show, we love it when you tell a friend. Take advantage of any of the offers, the Cyber Monday, the December to Remember, whatever you like. And good luck with all your bets this week. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. Shout out to Dan Alexander behind the scenes. Guys, that does it for NFL Opening Line Report. We'll be back next week. Until then, cash those tickets. Thanks for tuning in.